Hey, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? I'm back, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm Donnie D from Donnie D Soul Sundays, Donnie D Soul Gumbo, Behind the Curtains, Single Mother's Guide to Raising Black Boys, and From Crack to Christ, too. I'm not going to tell you nothing about that. What I'm going to tell you about is the guy that's sitting next to me. I got a man sitting next to me that's known all over the world. Bring it to Behind the Curtains right now, Mr. King James Brown. What's up, brother?
How you doing, my brother?
Good to see you,
Good
man.
to see you, too, yeah.
You know, James is not a stranger to this show. Where we're sitting at right now, he has had a 10-piece band, has had salt on the floor, and has tore this place up. People coming in, they had to close the door one time because people going up and down the street thought there was a big party in here. Want to come in, you know, seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, he's no stranger to the show. And Janique, she's no stranger to the show. She's going to be on one of the shows coming up soon, too. So watch out for her also. But how did you get started? I know the story.
Right.
But tell people who don't know the story in the capsule, how did you get started, man?
I got started with my stepfather's band. He had a blues band. His name was Joe Ragland, and it was called Joe Ragland and Fantastic. I was about 12 years old, and he actually started me on stage at Dudo's Music Center.
Dudo's.
In Compton.
Right, right.
And the reason why he did that was because at about 9 and 10 years old, I would be in my bedroom, in the mirror, burning holes in my mother's carpet, practicing the James Brown.
Trying to do the James Brown.
Right.
Huh?
And at that time, it started because a girl told me I couldn't dance at school. She asked me to dance. And I bombed out, and my heart dropped to the floor. Make a long story short, I went home.
Do you love me?
And I turned the channel, I saw James Brown Famous Flames live. And I was in shock.
Yeah, it is.
And I said, it wasn't the singing. I said, that's the dance I want to learn so I can show this girl. I thought he was amazing. But as I practiced, I would sing with the record. Right. And then I realized I could sing with the record. I was already, you know, children's gospel choir, Baptist church.
Okay.
But I wasn't out front. But it was this girl that blew my mind.
Thank God for that girl.
The girl. And once I started singing with the records, my sister said, "You sound just like her." Well, you know, I'm a kid. Right. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, we got the same name.
I was getting ready to ask you that. Your real name is James Brown.
So I put it all together and I said, oh, wait a minute. So I dedicated myself right there. I was determined to learn. But then I started singing along with the record. And then as time went on, I ended up in junior high school, forgot about the girl, and I had made up my mind, this is what I'm going to do. This, you know, and I was very serious. And so my mother married this blues guitarist. And I was so happy because I felt that he taught me a little guitar and stuff, but he put me on stage. And he caught me by accident. He came home from work early one day, and I'm in the room screaming and hollering.
Ow, I feel good.
I mean, loud, music loud, you know. I'm doing splits. Right. I'm soaking wet.
Right. Look out the
sweat all over the mirror. He stood there in the doorway. I didn't even know he was there.
Just watching.
Watching. Yeah. And I finally was doing some move, and I saw him in the mirror. And I stopped. Yeah. He said, "Why'd you stop?" I said, "Because I saw you standing there." I said, "How long you really stay?" He said, "I've been here a good 45 minutes.
Oh, you put on a show.
Yeah, because I used to rehearse to James Brown's 2-record set album, Live at the Apollo, volume, whatever it was. And I would do side A, B, C, and D, and then I would start over again. Side A, B,
this was
C,
in your
D.
heart, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did it so much I knew every grunt, every scream, everything. But that's how I rehearsed.
Yeah.
5, 6 hours. Then I would wake up in the middle of the night, and because TV guy, James Brown would always be on these talk shows.
Right.
And I would stay up late, wake
Johnny
up,
Carson.
all that. Mike Douglas.
Yeah.
And I would
Merv
watch.
Griffin,
Because,
yeah.
you know, there was no VCRs.
No, there wasn't.
So you couldn't.
You missed it, you missed it.
So I would go by what I saw, and then the rest of it I would have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'd get every picture of him, every move, and I would almost know what he was doing. But it was good for me because some parts I would have to make up my own that would fit. Because if I didn't know what he did there, I would make it up. You know, so what you had was me and him in here, where he might spin to the right, I would spin to the left.
Man, you deep,
I would
but
create.
you was into it.
Yeah, I was that deep.
Yeah, I see.
Deep. I'd be up late at night, in the middle of the night, doing it, while everybody sleep.
Well,
This was every day, every night. Yeah.
Well, you know, when I met, when the first time he came on the show, and, well, let me tell you this. Marsha Dees and I were at Gene Chandler,
Yeah.
Verl, presentation for him that day down at the City Hall. And I had been seeing you on Facebook. We weren't Facebook friends, I don't think, at the time.
Right.
And I said to Marsha, I said, that's that dude, King James Brown, back there. Don't stare. That guy back there. And look where we are today. But when he came on the show, I introduced you as James Brown.
Right.
And you said, no, it's King James Brown.
Yeah.
And I said, makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a lot
It
of
makes
sense.
a difference.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So I gotta hit this up as we keep going on.
Yeah.
This guy, besides being a fantastic performer, he's quite a dresser, as you can see. Look at this guy. And every time I see him, he's got another fantastic outfit on. You know, and it's kind of rubbing off on me a little bit. You can't tell today, but
Oh yeah.
he'll rub off on you. I know people that, like we were talking earlier, didn't wear jeans and caps.
Right.
You know, and they start hanging with you, and they bling down to the max now.
Yeah.
So how do you get your outfits, and what makes you, and how you get the shoes and stuff to match, and how do you do that, man?
I was back when I was growing up, I used to watch James Brown. I used to go to live concerts, and they would be blinged out and fashioned. I didn't have money back then.
Okay.
But when you're a person that's in the clothes, you'll find a way to put stuff together.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, where'd you get that?
Right.
You just learn how to put. Now, that's when I didn't have money. Now
I got money.
I would say I got a lot of money, but
You can afford
I
to.
just I go back to these places where nobody go to. In downtown, a lot of the clothes I would have made, by the Asians.
Yeah.
I would go there to the shops. I would show them a suit. I say, but I want with this material. I want this on there, and then I got some jackets they were a tuxedo jacket, but they blinged them out.
Oh, so you
Like
have
that.
it tailor-made, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I know I hate to say this, but there was a lot of clothes that I had silk suits and stuff. I haven't done it lately, but I would go to, like say for instance, in Vegas,
Right.
they'd have these secondhand stores. And what happens is a lot of people that stay at the hotel casinos will either gamble and lose all their money,
Right.
and they can't get back in their room. And so those clothes that they had, they would send them to the secondhand stores, brand new. And I would go in there,
Right.
and I would find bad
Right.
silk
Right.
suits
Treasures, huh?
for like $40.
Treasure chest.
People thought I spent $800, $900 on
Right.
it. Well, it was worth that, but I didn't have to do that. Now I haven't done that in a while. It's just sometimes I go to Italian shops, and if they didn't have something, they say, well, we can kind of make it for you.
Right.
And they do that, and then stuff they would have already that would fit me, but I would take some stuff that was already entertaining and I might add to it, but you don't want to overproduce it, you know. And I've had shoes made. My stepfather, that was a blues guitar player, he had a shoe repair shop, and he made shoes.
Shoe repair shops,
Right.
remember those?
In Compton.
Get you some taps put
You
on
don't
them.
see that. You don't see that
Some
now.
horseshoe taps.
Right. So he would take my shoes that were he already used,
Yeah.
and then he would put, you know, cloth over them and turn them into show shoes. So I have a knack for finding clothes that some people wouldn't even look.
Right.
You know, and I know how to take clothes and then have them redone. You know, but all this right here was already, but I had to do some stuff to this.
Yeah.
And so you mix and match, but you have to be a fashion knowledge person. So I've been in show business so long, I just learned all this stuff, because when you start out, you don't have money, but you got to look good.
You got to.
So there's ways. You have to be a fashion-minded person to go.
Well, you speaking of fashion,
Yeah.
you used to be on a show where the best fashions hit around the world, and I'm talking about Soul Train.
Right.
You were a Soul Train dancer.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that adventure.
That adventure, I started on Soul Train in 1976. But before that, I was friends with mostly all the dancers. Don Campbell, who created the Camelot.
Yeah.
Thelma Davis Martin.
Yeah.
She was one of the first on Soul Train when it first, 1971. You had Demeter Joe Freeman.
Right.
You had Sharon Hill, which is married to Mark Woods from Lakeside.
Okay.
You know, and then you had Sheila, the diva. She started, when I started in 1976, then you got Marco de Santiago, who gives a lot of the Christmas parties for Soul Train gang.
Who was the big brother who used to always stay, a big, tall, Puerto Rican-looking brother? Ed, Big Ed, what was his name? You know what I'm talking about.
I know you're talking
He didn't
about.
do no dancing. He just
No,
posed.
he just rocked.
Posed.
And he's gonna be mad at me because his name's on the tip of my tongue and we know each other.
Right.
So forgive me, I'm brain dead. But
you know what I'm talking
I know
about.
exactly what you're talking about. So it's so many of them, like Mr. X. You had Lil Joe Chisholm. You had who else? You had Crystal. You had Deborah Loggins, Dwayne Hargrave. You had Troyzette Frost. You had Keita Giannotti, who passed. Some of them passed away.
Well,
But,
was Jody Wiley and them after show?
Joe,
It was
when I came to
afterwards?
Soul Train, Jody Wiley and Jeffrey Daniels was there.
Okay.
They hadn't started Shalimar yet.
Right.
When I first came, I met Jody Wiley, I met Jeffrey, and when I saw Jody Wiley, I thought she was the finest girl I've seen in my life. She was.
Hey.
And then, you know, her and Jeffrey were dating. And then, you know, later on, Dick Griffey started, you know, this record label, Solar, him and Don Cornelius.
Right.
And, you know, and then Jeffrey and Jody was chose. And I forgot the other lead singers.
They had about 2 or 3 lead singers before Howard.
Right, then they got Howard Hewitt, and they just
took off.
he took off. So I was there for 9. So I knew them from the club scene way before I actually came to Soul Train.
Okay.
I used to run around with this dance troupe in L.A. called the Wild Bunch.
Okay.
And the first club I was dancing at, you had the Checkmate. The Checkmate used to be the Regency. It's the Regency West now. It was the Checkmate back then.
That's
and
right.
Roland Bynum had his matinee dances, and so it was geared toward the young teenagers. We didn't have to, because they didn't sell drinks. So I was in nightclubs for years. I never knew nothing about have to be 21.
Right.
We were at the Citadel. We were at the Summit on the Hill.
Where was the Citadel located at?
The Citadel was on Sunset.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact street,
Okay.
but I remember we would go there
I remember
and
hearing
dance,
about it.
and they had the pillows on the floor. I remember I saw a whole show, Isaac Hayes, and his rhythm section for free. Isaac Hayes and his rhythm, he had Shaft out. He walked in the door with 4 people from his band.
And they got down.
They totally place. We sit right on the dance floor and watched.
Wow.
He came on saying he gonna do 2-3 songs.
Yeah.
He did a whole hour, just
Well,
everything. Huh?
Let me ask you this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this show called American Soul, and it's by Tony Cornelius, I think, produced it. And it
Well, it
shows
was
a lot
Questlove.
of.
Questlove.
I'm not sure.
I think it was Questlove.
Questlove might have had
Questlove.
something to do with it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But,
I think,
you know, they show Don being this kind of guy. And
Oh, you mean the? Oh no, that's Tony Cornelius.
yeah,
I thought-
I know
the
what you're
Summer
talking
Soul.
about.
No,
Not the Summer Soul.
No, that was the Soul Train.
Yeah, the show about
yeah.
Soldier. I was Tony
Right,
Cornelius' son.
right. Mhm.
Now, they showed him being upset when, I guess, the Asian woman came on, Girl the Dancer.
Yeah, I know, Cheryl's
And-
song.
Yeah, now, a lot of people I know I've talked to that have been on the show, craft services was 2 pieces of chicken and a soda.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That's true.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It's true, huh?
Yeah.
That's-
Box of chicken, Kentucky Fried Chicken.
And you would tape
Well-
how many shows in a day?
I remember sometime 2 or 3, you know, but one day they would do the groups first,
Okay.
the singers, the bands.
Right.
Then maybe the next day it was just all the dancers. And then the only way you knew it was another show was when they told you got to change clothes.
Right, right.
You know,
right.
but they shot it like they were shooting a movie.
Oh.
So what you see on television when it's dancing in the groups, it was shot separately.
Oh.
And it would take all day, sometime 15, 16
8-hour
hours.
days.
And then after that, we would go out
And
to a
party.
club, a party, sometimes no sleep. Come the next day tired.
Right.
And
And
Chuck-
this was there wasn't no paycheck involved in this, was it?
No.
That's what I right.
But it was, if you had any type of career going or something, it helped.
Well, I
'Cause you
guess it
on
was a
television.
launch
Launching pad, right.
to where, you know, because a lot of
yeah,
people
yeah.
got over coming off of that rerun.
Right.
A lot of people
Right.
came
Oh,
off
yeah.
of that show.
Oh,
and
yeah.
did great things.
And see, for me, at that time in the 70s, I was performing on stage. When I wasn't at Soul Train, I'd be at the nightclubs. I was probably at every nightclub they had in LA. Some nights it was just straight dance because I felt like I needed to dance, just dance to stay in shape and the steps. Then other nights I would go to live entertainment clubs like, I can't remember now, but Maverick Flat,
The Flat,
Page 4,
Total
Five
Experience.
Torches, Total Experience, Page 4. But this was all before even Total Experience.
Okay,
Yeah,
well-
Chicago West.
When I had
And
talked to you once
mhm.
before, and you had told me, and I was like, "What? Did you work with Big Mama Thornton?"
Yeah, the
Name
California
some
Club.
of the people. that you
California
worked-
Club, that
Yeah.
was Don Johnson's club. Don Johnson used to play with the Johnny Otis band.
Johnny Otis, and Ed
Right.
John.
And that's where I really got my chops. I mean, I did Cover Girl Lounge, and back then, this was like late 70s. Well, I was doing Soul Train, so that helped because now I'm in the lounges, but I was still working on me.
Right, right.
You know, I was good enough to get hired, but when I look at me now and then, still had a long way. But
well, you was that guy from Soul Train too.
yeah, and
you know?
yeah, and you know, but back to Big Mama Thornton, all this happened at the California Club on St. Andrews and Santa Barbara, which Santa Barbara is King
Boulevard
right.
now, right.
It's on the corner of St. Andrews and Santa Barbara.
Okay.
The club, and right there, Skillet Leroy would be there.
Skillet and Leroy.
Percy Mayfield,
Yeah.
blues writer, singer, his wife Tina Mayfield, Zola Taylor from the Platters.
Right.
All of them were still alive.
Right.
And you had Cardella DeMilo, jazz singer. You had Bobby Williams, Don Johnson partner, and Don Johnson loved me, and they kind of catered around me and guided me. They said, "You work hard," and because when I went on stage, I would dress, wasn't making no money, but I just did it like the big boys did.
Yeah, well, you
So I came in because I was that serious. I come
Right.
in like I was getting paid.
right,
I just wanted to get on stage.
right.
And they put me on, and I think I would do like 3 numbers. In my mind, I knew I could do more than that. So but I would tear the place up.
Yeah.
And I got an audience growing from that. Then they say, well, are you capable of doing more songs? Yes. And so what happened was they started paying me because I garnished up a following.
And they come to the club.
Right.
They following you.
Right.
So they wanted that money too.
Right. But my first show I produced, the reason why it was at Blueberry Hill in 1978, 79.
Right.
I produced it because at the CoverGirl Lounge, I was doing 2 shows. This is where I was doing 2 shows with a live band. Well, I used to perform at Jim Brown's house up in the hills, Sunset Plaza Drive, and I can't remember the name of the promoters, but it was Boom Boom, J.D. Hollywood, Freddie Burton. They were the promoters of that time.
Okay.
And they had all like Digby's and what was that?
You naming places
New York Subway, Jackie O's.
Jackie O's.
But I was using and see, they didn't have live bands. Right. So I talked them in and let me use 8 tracks because I had a band that had a studio in the garage. And I would record the music without my vocals. And I would use this.
An innovator, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. And this is how I proved to them that I can do a 2-hour show.
Jeez.
But I had to prove it to them because I knew I could, so I had to show them. And so at the CoverGirl, I did it. But then you had a lot of my friends, the Soul Train dancers, that didn't go to live entertainment clubs. They would go to the discos and just dance. Right. So I would bring the live show to the disco so they could see me. And I'd tell them, put in the tape, and I'd bring my own mic stand microphone and do it that way. But at Blueberry Hill, they knew me for dance, and they knew I was singing, but they never seen it. So I went to the club owner, because I had a big following there, a lot of girls, as a dancer. So I said, give me a Saturday night. They said yes right off. I was surprised. I said, what you gonna do? I'm gonna bring in a full band and do 2 shows.
And I'm gonna fill the place
up. They went for it. They said, we'll give you the night.
Yeah.
And I took my own money, and I paid the band.
Right.
And my friends, I had 3 friends that were great group singers. They could sing harmony and stuff. And I took them with me to be my backup singers.
Right.
And by me having them with me, I learned to even sing better because they're singing all the time with me. I had a guy by the name of Winfrey Black. He's called Silk Black.
Oh, Silk.
Back then I would hire Silk Black to perform, to open for me. And I was doing James Brown, but I began to indulge in other artists' music because now, vocally, I had James Brown, but I started doing OJs. I started because I'm in that range, and I'm looking at Winfrey. He can sing.
And Mr. Blue Magic.
But he would tell me, James, you be performing your, I won't say ASS.
ASS off. You heard it.
So. He opened, and I remember I came on, and they were blown away at Blueberry Hill. They were just blown away. No. And I rented all the tuxedos. I had the band. I spent my own money. Right. I had the whole band in tuxes.
Looking good.
My background singer in tuxes, and we came out and the club owners was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And another thing that happened, my grandfather was against music. He was all about the church.
Right.
He wasn't about the club, so I had a hard time with him. So it wasn't until I was 27 before he finally came to see me, and this was at Blueberry Hill. And what happened was I was winning so many trophies, for best entertainer and this and that. And the lady, Cardella DeMilo, that was booking, and Leroy from Leroy Skillet, saying, why you don't come out? So what they did, they started calling my grandmother, look, he need to come see his son.
Yeah, we used to get in a limo and bring him up.
We used to get in not fights, but just, because he see me leave with a suit on and come back at 10 the next day Will soon
Yeah,
on.
well, you were
I
doing
wasn't
secular
working.
music. You was out in the world.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
but he didn't, you know, he didn't really know how good I was.
Yeah.
But my mother and them, my brother-in-law, my sister, my grandma said, "You got to go see." So that was my first show I produced. I'm in the dressing room, and the guy come back. He said, "James Brown, your family's here."
Just like in the movies.
He said, "Your
Just
family,"
like- just like
but my stage name was James Brown 2. They named it after like Jaws 2. It was James Brown 2.
Okay,
And-
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Because we got a little bit of time left, and I want to talk about Backyard Boogie.
Yes, yes.
Definitely, and Breaking Loose.
Yes,
But Blueberry Hill,
yes.
that's where I decided I wanted to be a little disco DJ. I was
Yeah.
there one night, and they had a guy on the microphone screaming talking crap like I had never seen before.
Yeah.
I got me a little a guitar amp,
Yeah.
a mic, and a turntable.
Yeah.
I was in business because of Blueberry Hill.
Yes, Blueberry Hill.
Moving
yeah.
right along, switch reels.